Before we begin, the author wishes to give a special shout out to his friend Rihanna, her sister Shaylin, and her two little boys, Cade and Rowan. I cannot shut your mom/sister up about what good little boys and girls you are. This is for you guys. Thank you for being such big fans of my stories. I really appreciate all the late night video chats when I'm not feeling well. It helps me clear my mind and think straight. Rihanna, because you're so rad, I had to name a character after someone else famous, in honor of you. I hope you enjoy this story. True love is a complicated emotion that affects everyone differently. It makes a man do crazy things. It makes him risk it all. It makes him want to take on the world. And it makes him sick. Deathly sick. Dr. Beckett came crashing down the stairs.
Samantha! Oh God, how did you get out? This wasn't supposed to happen. We can still save you.
The last thing John Bauer could hear while his consciousness faded was the radio, no longer static. Emergency broadcast in progress. This is not a test. The president has declared a nationwide emergency as civil authorities around the country are reporting record high levels of rampancy among infected. Anyone showing suspected signs of illness should be isolated until further notice. Infected individuals are highly volatile and extremely dangerous. Stay indoors, close all windows, and await further instructions. If you or a loved one has been bitten, seek medical attention immediately. It was just like old times. John and Samantha would be together forever, and he couldn't keep her away from him. John awoke sometime later and slowly inched his eyes open. His body ached. He felt like he had been hit over the head with a brick, and he was hot. He was perspirating like a waterfall in the springtime. The nauseating stench of sweat and blood filled the air. His head was spinning. He wanted to rub his face, but he couldn't. His arms were tied up to a cold metal chair. Sitting next to him in another chair was Samantha, but she appeared to be unconscious. A tennis ball was taped neatly into her mouth. Sunlight poured in and made his headache even worse. He wasn't sure how long he had been unconscious. Struggling to move his head, John did his best to take in his surroundings. He knew where he was, even if he didn't know how he wound up there. This was his old high school gymnasium. It was a haunting image into a world from long ago. Banner after banner still adorned the walls, annotating each big basketball game the school's team had been victorious in throughout the years. The gymnasium, though familiar at heart, was different now. It was cold and macabre. It felt more like a haunted house than a school. Some of the banners that once hung proud were now torn up and withering away.
Samantha, are you okay?
John moaned. Using every ounce of his strength, he tried to nudge himself closer to her, but it wasn't good enough. His body would not allow him any strength. It didn't have any to spare. He had been sick before, but not like this. This was new. This was miserable. It was like every cold, every flu, every hangover, all rolled up neatly into one unfortunate package. All he could do was scream.
Hello? Anyone? Please help!
The door at the opposite end of the room creaked open. The blurry silhouette of Dr. Beckett crept closer.
Damn it, John, save your strength. The more you struggle, the more it's going to hurt. No one else is here. No one is going to hear you. Don't kill me, please. Relax, you're delirious.
Dr. Beckett said as he retrieved a firearm-like object out of his pocket.
This is only to take your temperature.
The thermometer pressed firmly onto John's forehead. It only took a few seconds to spit out the results.
Christ, this isn't good. 39 degrees Celsius.
In his other hand was a small cup of water. He pressed it to John's lips and tilted it forward.
This is for you. Drink.
He was definitely back in school. Fever or not, he wasn't delirious enough to block out the nasty metallic taste of the water fountain. But when you are burning up, you do not complain. He drank the water down in 3 swift gulps. When the cup was empty, Dr. Beckett tossed it aside and turned to Samantha to stroke her hair.
Sam? Baby? You still in there?
Her head slumped forward and she began to show signs of life. He planted a kiss on his daughter's head. He wasn't sure if she could recognize him anymore, but this kiss was more for him than anyone else. The doctor needed something to hold on to. However unlikely, he had to believe that his daughter was still in there, that there was a cure for whatever this malady was that turned his precious little girl into a feral animal. When she was fully awake, her demeanor changed at the snap of a finger, and if she hadn't been gagged, she might have bitten her father's fingers clean off. She writhed in pain and almost fell out of her chair. Her animalistic growls were masked by her gag.
What have you done to her?
John whispered. He could feel his energy draining with each new word spoken.
I didn't do a damn thing. She was already starting to get sick when she came home. I would have figured out what's wrong with her by now if you didn't break into my house and mess everything up. This is ridiculous. You can't just leave us here like this. We need a hospital. I feel like death. Absolutely not!
His piercing voice shrilled and echoed through the gymnasium. The very thought of going to a hospital was offensive.
The only thing a hospital would do is dope you up until you stopped breathing. I can figure this out. I can help you. She got you pretty good in the neck, so it's going to hit you pretty fast. But if I keep the two of you here, I can do something. I just need some time to figure this out. I can save everyone. I can wrap this whole thing up inside a week.
John took a deep breath and gathered his strength.
You're crazy.
He didn't have many words left in him. He was tired and weak, but there was more to it than that. The very yearning to speak, to use language, was exiting his body, and a much more primal instinct was taking over.
You'll thank me for this later.
The doctor retrieved a second tennis ball and gagged John.
In the meantime, I think you two will be happy here. Remember prom? That was the happiest I've ever seen Samantha. And I'll put that smile on her face again, no matter what.
Tears began to fill the doctor's face. He turned around and strode towards the door. As soon as he shut the door, his body gave out. He slid down to the floor, and the emotional dam he worked so hard on finally gave way. This was getting out of hand. More and more people across the country were getting sick. Could one doctor really resolve this all? Surely there were others who felt the same way. Teams of specialists all working together. If they couldn't do it, what made him so special? He retrieved one final item from his pockets, a .38 special. There was only one bullet left. He had to take out a few infected to get Samantha and John inside the high school. He slid the barrel of the gun into his mouth. The barrel was still warm and tasted like gunpowder from being recently fired. He tried to work up the nerve to pull the trigger, but stopped each time just before the gun's hammer could come crashing down. The gun fell to his lap. He knew what he had to do, but did he have the strength or the cowardice to go through with it? The bell above the door to Millie's pancake shop rang as the door slowly crept open. "Hello? Anyone around?" Jordan Blair called out. "It's just me and my little girl. We only want something to eat." There was dead silence for about 15 seconds before Jordan decided the coast was clear. Then he looked back outside and motioned for his daughter Katie to follow him in.
"Where is everyone, Daddy?"
She asked. "They're safe in their new forever homes, which is where we should be right now."
"Daddy, I'm hungry."
He looked around the desolate diner. It gave him the creeps. He had never seen one so empty in the middle of the day. The stools at the counter were barren. Pans and dishes were littered across the stove, but there were no chefs. It was just the two of them, a father and his daughter who left home in a hurry with only what they could carry. Looking around, Jordan got an idea. "You know what? I don't think they'll mind if we borrow the kitchen. Let's go, we gotta eat something." While Jordan toiled away on the stove, Katie sat at the counter playing on her tablet. "Keep the volume on mute, okay, honey? I think we're safe here, but just in case." If only she still had her wireless headset, but that died about an hour before.
"Are we gonna eat soon, Daddy?"
She asked. "Almost ready, sweetie. I found some nice pancake mix and there's some syrup on the counter here. Because of the circumstances, knock yourself out with the syrup. As long as you eat, I'm happy."
"I don't want pancakes. Mommy always made scrambled eggs."
Of course, sweet, delicious, and unlimited syrup will be any child's dream, but not hers. Well, we won't tell Mommy about this. What she don't know won't hurt her. Besides, all I could find was this pancake mix. I couldn't find any fresh eggs. Now, go to the bathroom, go tinkle or whatever you got to do. Wash your hands, and when you're done, we'll be ready to eat, okay? She nervously glanced over at the men's and women's restrooms. He could tell she was nervous. What's the matter?
Mommy always goes with me.
I'm tied up doing this right now, honey. No one else is here. Go by yourself, it's fine. She put her tablet down on the counter and hopped off the seat. Normally, in a crowded restaurant, her mother would have taken her to the bathroom. She was still just a child, and a few feet separating parent from child, any number of things could usually happen. He hated breaking his little girl's routine and habits, but desperate times called for desperate measures. She was going to have to grow up a lot faster than most kids had to. About 2 minutes had gone by since Katie had entered the restroom. Jordan had a small stack of pancakes on a dish and ready to go for the two of them. Bon appetit, little girl. Now wash your hands and get out here.
Ah! Daddy, help!
He dropped the plate and rushed over to the bathroom. By the time the glass could shatter, he was already shoving open the bathroom door. Infected. They were here too. Katie laid on the bathroom floor, struggling for her life. If she hadn't had her backpack with her, she would have been dead meat already. The soft and stretchy nylon was the only shield she had. Hey, get off her! Jordan lunged forward and delivered a swift kick to the infected man's head, sending him flying back. Katie, quick, get out of here. I'll be right behind you. They were packing up the few things they brought inside with them when a loud thump was heard. Suddenly, the men's room door burst open. There were more of them in there too. They must have been trapped in there prior to their arrival, or they had gotten sick and succumbed to the infection in the bathroom. This is no time to wonder. There had to be at least 5 or 6 of them, not counting the one that attacked Katie. Honey, are you okay? Did they bite you? Did they bite you?
No, Daddy, I'm all right.
Quick, get back in the car, now! What started out as a moment's respite had developed into a nightmare. How could he have been so stupid? He was better than this. Every square inch of the place should have been checked before he told Katie it was safe inside. But he was hungry. They both were, and he let his mindless desire to eat cloud his better judgment. As the two drove away, he sat there silent, focusing on the road ahead. They would go away, as far away as possible, away from people. People were sick. Eventually, he lost track of the time. He was getting lost in his own thoughts when Katie broke the silence.
Daddy, what are we gonna do now? I'm still hungry.
I know, sweetie. Just a little bit farther and we'll find a different restaurant or something. Somewhere that hasn't been touched yet. Jordan hated lying to his daughter, but what else could he do? His bandaged right hand was clutched firmly on the steering wheel, and their SUV was trudging down the road at 70 miles an hour, and they hadn't seen a thing in ages. If there hadn't been such a defined road, Jordan could have easily assumed he was driving in circles. A seemingly infinite number of towering trees and bushes was all there was to greet them on their all-night journey. Everything from blue spruce to Douglas fir. They had seen them each a dozen times by now. It was almost hypnotizing, watching the trees sway back and forth in the crisp breeze. Bits of sunlight peeked through the seemingly mile-high treetops. Jordan rolled down his window and took in a deep breath of piney fresh air. His pale blue eyes darted towards the fuel gauge. Much like his hope, it was slowly heading towards empty. They would have to find somewhere to stop soon. This was the only time in life he regretted getting such a gas guzzler. Seeing the needle nudge closer and closer to empty made him want to smash his window in frustration. He couldn't do that though. It was important to put on a brave face for his daughter Katie. All they had was each other, and it was them versus the world now. It was a very savage world. A world where everyone thought things would be back to normal in only a couple of months. But they were wrong. They were lied to. The vaccines, the antibodies, the toilet paper hoarding. It was all for nothing. It started in the major cities, and the CDC said it had things under control. That was 6 months ago. No one ever had it under control. They couldn't even determine where it came from, if it was man-made or not. Now, a disease was spreading like wildfire across the country. Big cities like New York and Chicago, they were the first to go. But whatever this was making its rounds through smaller towns now too.
I still don't understand,
said Katie.
Why couldn't Mommy come with us?
Jordan took out a deep gulp and let out a sigh. He focused his gaze towards Katie while still keeping a watchful eye on the road. This was one of the hardest conversations he would ever have with his daughter. How do you look a 9-year-old child in the eyes and tell her that her mommy is dead? And worse yet, how do you tell her you did what had to be done because mommy was very sick and that she changed into something else? The next step in human de-evolution, a crazed animal out for flesh and blood. He thought to himself for a minute. Mommy is sick right now, honey. When she feels a little bit better, she's going to come meet us. In the meantime, Daddy's got you, and nothing's going to stop me from making sure you're safe. It took everything for him to hold back the tears. His face was pale, his hands were sweaty. Eventually, the truth always comes out. She was just a kid, but that didn't mean she was an idiot. Sooner or later, Katie would find out the truth. Her mother won't be catching up with them. The thoughts raced through his head at internet speed. Images conjured up in his mind's eye of a distraught Katie learning of her mother's fate. What about in a few years if she even made it that far? Would she figure out what her father did? How would she feel about him if she did find out? He tried his best to shove the negative thoughts out of his mind. It didn't really matter, much like the fuel gauge on their SUV. Jordan didn't have a lot of time left. The event had replayed at least 100 times in his head by now. How could he have been so careless? As cliché as it was for this predicament now, he could see no other explanation than blaming violence in the media. How many movies and television shows existed that posed the exact scenario he was in right now? If you flipped through cable, you could catch it on television almost any night of the week. A survivor or team of survivors band together to face off hundreds of infected. There was one thing he never learned from the movies. When you are facing off against an infected opponent and find yourself unarmed, never under any circumstances punch them dead square in the face with your bare hands. That was Jordan's mistake. His wife had gotten infected, and he had to belt her in the face to protect Katie. Her teeth sank into him after the hit landed. Thankfully, it was only a minor hand wound. He had seen others bitten before. The higher up on the body, and the more major the artery, the less time you had before the infection completely enveloped you. Some people, such as those with a neck wound, went within a matter of hours. Even though he wasn't a doctor, from what he had seen, he guessed he had maybe 48 hours before he turned. That's 2 days to get the hell out of Dodge and make sure Katie was somewhere safe.
Daddy, can we turn the music on?
And there it was, something more dangerous than any apocalypse. The true pandemic that was sweeping the nation. Childhood boredom. Sorry, sweetie, the radio went out about 20 miles ago.
So?
So that means no music.
What about we play a game? I spy with my...
Daddy has to keep his eyes on the road. There's a lot of bad people out there right now. They can be anywhere. Can't you just play with your tablet? The charger's in the back seat. She looked down at her lap and became very quiet. What's the matter? What did you do with your tablet?
I left it back at the pancake house.
Jordan slammed on the steering wheel. Katie, you've got to be kidding, right?
I had to tinkle, and you were shouting at me to hurry up, and...
Honey, how many times have I told you to pay attention to what you're doing?
Can't we just go back?
We're almost out of gas. Even if we could, the bad people are back that way. I have to keep us safe. I'm barely even sure where we're going now. She kicked up her feet and hit the glove compartment.
I want to go back now.
Under normal circumstances, he was the more malleable parent. He would have done whatever she wanted. If they had more fuel, he might have even risked it and turned around. But not this time. Suppose they turn around now and ran out of gas on the way back. It could be a disaster. We're not turning around. You've got to learn. I gave you one responsibility, one thing. Keep track of your toys. You don't listen. Right on cue, her face swelled up. Here came the teardrops.
Why are you so mean? I said I want to go back now.
Jordan looked her dead in the face. He hated it, but someone had to step up and be the responsible one now. Sweetie, I'm warning you. Please don't start.
I said I want to go back now.
We can't. Maybe now you'll learn to listen to me.
This is not fair.
Katie, don't start with me today. I cannot deal with this
Daddy, look out!
Jordan turned his attention back to the road, but the split second he looked away was 1 second too many. They were careening head-on into a tree that had fallen on the road. As the car slammed into the tree and defied the laws of gravity, time slowed down. Jordan did his best to throw his hands in front of Katie. So, this was it. This was how it would all end. A silly argument over a tablet. If there is an afterlife, what was Jordan going to tell his wife when they met again? Sorry our daughter is joining us so early, honey. I couldn't control the crying child and crashed the car. About an hour later, Jordan regained consciousness. He couldn't remember what time it was when he last checked his watch, but he knew it was light out before the accident. His bloodshot eyes stared back at him in the rearview mirror as he hung there upside down. As soon as he could move, he directed all of his attention to Katie. Katie, honey, answer me, come on. Wake up. Open your eyes. She winced in pain.
Daddy? Daddy, what are we doing here?
Somehow, he managed to spit it out through the immense pain. I hit a tree, sweetie. Stay very, very still, okay? I'm gonna get out of the car and I'm gonna come to you. Jordan unbuckled his seatbelt and plummeted to the roof of the car. The glass on the driver's side window was already starting to shatter, so it only took one swift whack with his elbow to bring it crackling and crunching apart. He crawled out and slowly rose up to his feet. He looked much worse than he felt. His t-shirt and jeans were stained with blood and he was covered in bruises, probably in more areas than he could notice when fully clothed, but nothing was broken. Gently putting one foot after another, he staggered over to the passenger side. See that, honey? What did I say? This is why we wear our seatbelts. If you weren't wearing one, you could have gotten hurt. Katie was clearly in pain, but at least she was alive and conscious.
But I'm hurt now.
Well, yeah, but you could have been hurt worse. When I say buckle up, we buckle up. In under a minute, he had her safely outside the car. All right, honey. Are you okay? Can you walk? He asked. She took a couple of steps forward, recoiling every time she put weight on her left foot.
My leg hurts.
I know, sweetie, but I don't think anything is broken. Just go slow.
What are we gonna do now?
Jordan spun around and did his best to survey the immediate area. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice filled the air. Hands up! Don't move, damn it! 3 men emerged from the trees carrying rifles. They were dressed in camouflage and blended in neatly with the greenery of the area. The one shouting must have been the leader. He was tall and lanky. The second one was fat and covered in sweat and tattoos. The final guy was bald and had 3 teeth to his grotesque smile. The collapsed tree trunk on the road. It must have been a trap, and they drove right into it. If the 3 of these guys could be invisible like that, who knows how many more could have been out there? Jordan threw his hands in the air and Katie huddled behind him. This was just the danger he had been warning her about. When certain people started getting sick, others started getting desperate. These guys didn't look sick, not in any physical way, but they had that look about them. That animalistic look of desperation burned deep in their eyes, in their souls. Jordan had no idea how many men they had trapped and killed before, but his instincts told him that they wouldn't hesitate to do it again. Figuring that the one shouting must be the leader, Jordan spoke to him, trying to de-escalate the situation. Mister, we don't want any trouble. We're just trying to get somewhere safe. My daughter and I, we're hurt. I got distracted while driving.
Sucks to be you, pal.
The leader responded.
Now empty your pockets. What do you got on you?
Jordan fumbled through his wallet. I got about $100 left on me. It ain't much, but it's all yours. Just take it and go away. Please don't hurt us. The leader smacked the wallet out of Jordan's hands. It tumbled down to the side of the road, splashing into a puddle.
You trying to be a wise guy or something? This ain't worth nothing these days. Where's your food? If you made it all the way around here, you had to have packed for the road. You gotta have something in this crushed tin can of a car over here.
That's what this was all about. Of course it couldn't have been about money, but it was worth a try. Cash wasn't king anymore. It had about as much worth now as Monopoly money or toilet paper that everyone started hoarding at the start of the pandemic. True wealth these days was being able to keep your stomach full. But what was going on? They had guns and ammo. Why not just hunt for food? Out here there had to be plenty of deer or literally any wild animal if they were hungry enough. Look, mister, Jordan begged and pleaded. I feel your pain, but I promise we don't have anything. My daughter and I are starving too.
That's bullshit.
The lead bandit raised his rifle.
You got something on ya, and you're gonna give it up, or I'm gonna blow your head off.
It was no use. They were drunk with power and crazed by hunger. Money was of no use to them anymore. Jordan had nothing to barter with. There was no way out. Katie, quickly. Daddy knows your leg hurts, but I need you to run. Just get out of here. She scurried away as fast as she could, trying not to collapse from the pain.
Get after her, boys,
said the bandit leader.
I'll finish up with her daddy. It's probably better she don't see what's coming to him anyways.
Wouldn't it be better to forget her? Asked the third bandit. What are we gonna do with the kid? We can't feed ourselves. The leader rolled his eyes.
Do I gotta think of everything? Right now we're just 3 assholes down on our luck. If we got a kid with us, people will let their guard down easier. Get friendly with us. Now go on after her. Her leg hurts and she won't get very far.
The 2 men lowered their weapons and disappeared back into the woods. Jordan's eyes swelled up with tears. Please, I'm begging you, just leave my daughter alone.
Shut up and get down on your knees. You don't want to share your food with us? This is what happens.
When staring down the business end of a rifle, time slows down. Everything felt like it was in slow motion. Jordan could see everything frame by frame. His heart raced 1,000,000 miles an hour. He could feel his lungs working harder and faster than he ever had before to draw breath. Something funny happened, though. He found his attention drifting away from the rifle and toward the throbbing vein on the bandit's neck. There was something mesmerizing about it. Each little thump it made as the bandit screamed. Something had whispered to him in the back of his mind. He didn't know the words, but he knew what he had to do. Like a teenage boy left alone in his room, what he was about to do felt so wrong, but so natural. Jordan lunged forward and bit down on the bandit's neck. He never felt this in tune with his body before. He had one goal, and every biological function inside him was working together to make sure it happened. He had to bite down harder and harder. The bandit's rifle crashed to the floor, and a loud bang erupted as it landed. Jordan was latched onto the man's neck. He shoved him back with all his might. A fountain of blood erupted from the gaping bite mark.
Ah! What the hell, man? You're nuts!
He started to run as fast as his legs would allow him. Jordan retrieved the rifle off the ground. He never shot a person before, but it came to him much easier than he thought it would. He raised the rifle in the fleeing bandit's direction and squeezed the trigger. There was a loud roar from the barrel, and all movement had ceased. A shower of blood rained over the trees and bushes. That was one down. Now it was time to go get the other 2 and help Katie. They weren't far away. He could still hear them. If he moved now, he could catch them. The 2 remaining men had caught up with Katie and were already hauling her back. The fat bandit held onto her arm like a snake strangling its dinner.
Ow! Please, we've got to stop. I can't go any farther.
Her protest fell on deaf ears. The 2 bandits were caught up in conversation with each other. I don't believe this. We should just let her go fend for herself. We need to look after us. We're what matters, and we're already starving. He does have a good point, though. A pretty little girl like this is good to have around. Makes people less suspicious of you, said the fat bandit. If you think it's such a good idea, then you can share your food with her. She ain't getting any of mine. Yeah, I thought that would shut you up. Jordan emerged from the bushes, rifle in hand. That's far enough, assholes. Give me my little girl back now, and no one else has to get hurt.
Daddy, you're here.
I told you I'd never leave you, sweetie. We're gonna get out of here now, okay? Hold on there. Nobody's moving another inch, the fat bandit protested. They were in a standoff. Jordan anxiously moved his rifle back and forth between the two men. What in the hell are you doing here, boy? What happened to Kenny? Oh, you must mean your boss, Jordan snarled. He's taking a dirt nap right now. Give me back my daughter, or you'll be joining him real soon. What? The toothless bandit shouted. You killed him? That was our brother, you son of a bitch! Years of inbreeding, I'm sure. Ah! The toothless bandit wailed. Fuck him and forget about this little girl. Let's off them both and get out of here. Yeah, you said it. And you're right. She ain't getting my food. The fat bandit stopped mid-sentence and blood sprang from his mouth. His rigid grip on Katie's arm gave way. An aluminium 6mm fixed-blade crossbow bolt protruded from his back as he dropped to the ground. A strange feminine voice rang out from behind a distant pair of bushes.
Little girl, go back to your daddy and get behind him quick.
Katie was quick to heed the voice's warning. There was nowhere she would rather be right now than with her father. Oh shit, it's her again. Where's she coming from? The toothless bandit couldn't decide where to aim his rifle, at Jordan or in the direction of the voice. Jordan didn't give him much of a chance to consider his options. He quickly squeezed the trigger to his gun and sent the toothless bandit to join his brothers. The woman emerged from her hiding spot. Unlike the bandits, she wasn't camouflaged for combat. It was like she lived out here. She was wearing a green bathrobe with ducks on it and a small green beanie that held a mound of dark blonde hair in place.
Are you two okay?
She asked. Yeah, Jordan answered without lowering his gun. He was still a little suspicious.
What are you two doing out in these parts anyway?
We're looking for food and some shelter. We crashed a car a little ways back. I think these bastards set a trap for us. The lady chuckled.
You wouldn't happen to mean the tree trunk on the road, would you? That was one of mine.
What the hell did you do that for? Almost killed me and my daughter here.
Ain't my fault you can't drive,
she said.
I've been working on that with my tractor the last couple of days trying to block off the road. Although it's not like too many people come around these parts nowadays anyway.
Jordan aimed his rifle at her. She raised her crossbow.
I know. You're pissed my trap busted up your ride, but trust me, I did you a favor. That GPS garbage. The government is tracking every one of us right now. It's all a game to them.
Oh, great. One of those. Her beanie should have been a tinfoil hat. She was spouting nonsense that any other nut hadn't come up with a million times before. If the government had anything at all to do with the pandemic, would they really have collapsed themselves too? A game? You really want to go there? Jordan shouted. My daughter and I are fighting for our lives. This ain't a joke.
Cool your jets. Take it easy. I just saved your skin.
I could have handled those guys.
Oh, really?
She asked.
Have you ever even fired a gun before this?
Maybe not, but he did just bite someone to death. Jordan thought to himself for a minute. You really want to save our skin? Help us get through the rest of the day. Do you have shelter?
If I hadn't come along, you and your daughter wouldn't be breathing. I helped enough. What's in it for me to keep carting you two around?
Jordan was brash in his response. I'll let you keep breathing. This may be my first time, but I hear practice makes perfect.
Well,
she continued.
Fine, come with me. I have a house not too far from here. It's out of the way. You and your daughter can get rest and get something to eat. Don't tempt me, though. You even breathe funny. And I'll end you.
Katie's eyes widened.
You have food? Do you really mean it?
The poor hungry little girl could hardly keep herself from salivating as she spoke.
Of course, little lady. I'm running low, though.
Is your place far? Jordan asked.
Not at all.
He sighed. This wasn't ideal, but at least Katie would have a place to rest and get something to eat. All right, we're cool.
Nah, we ain't cool. What's your name?
I'm Jordan, and this is...
I'm Katie. I'm 9 years old, and I like Minecraft.
My name's Madonna. And no, not like the singer.
The woman answered back to them both.
Nice to meet you, little lady. Now we're cool. as a cucumber baby. Now we best make way quick. The noise we've been making probably drew out some of those infected sons of bitches.
Jordan couldn't help but smack himself across his bruised forehead. Are you shitting me? They're all the way out here, too?
I'm afraid so. They're everywhere.
They walked about 3/4 of a mile before they made it back to Madonna's house. It wasn't much. It was on a small hill and looked like something out of a Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers movie. That one house in the middle of nowhere that unsuspecting teens run off to in order to make love before finding themselves hacked to bits and pieces. But it looked safe, ironically. It was everything Madonna said it would be. Away from prying eyes and well put together. If there had been any infected around, she had done a good job in fortifying the place. All of the windows were boarded up, save for the one in the kitchen for reconnaissance purposes, and there was only one way in or out, the back door. Everywhere else had been locked up tight. When they got inside, Madonna directed Katie upstairs.
Little girl, you look tired. Go in that room over there. You can use my bed for now. Take a nap and I'm going to talk to your daddy.
Katie looked toward him for confirmation. It's okay, sweetie. Now what do you say?
Thank you.
Katie ran into the bedroom and shut the door. Madonna turned towards Jordan. The friendly expression she put on for Katie gave way to a stern glance.
Let her rest a little. Dinner won't take long. I hope you like corn, 'cause that's all I got left. Deal with it. My husband, Lord rest his soul, he passed on before things got out of hand. Always used to ask me, what you gonna do with all that corn? You must be crazy. Oh boy, if he only knew.
Jordan took a sip of his glass of water. A strong, bitter taste filled his mouth.
Not used to well water, I take it.
Well, yeah, I guess not. But it is something else. It's something. She handed him a napkin.
You have blood on your face.
He had completely forgotten about chomping down on the bandit leader's neck. That must have been the horrible taste, the taste of flesh and blood. He rinsed out his mouth and washed his face.
You all right? You hurt?
She asked. What would he say? That he was infected? That his most feral senses were starting to take over? Nah, one of those jerks smacked me in the mouth pretty good. Knocked out some of my teeth, I think. While they were talking, Madonna was finishing boiling the last of her corn. She set 3 glass dishes on the table and gave each of them the biggest helping that she could afford.
So how did you guys end up all the way out here anyway?
Jordan didn't like to think about it. The thought of their struggles made him weep, but it was a natural question in a situation like this. When you meet up with someone in similar circumstances, it's a natural reflex to go, so what's your story? He let out a sigh and began. It was about a week ago, back where I came from. Some idiot doctor decided it was a good idea to lock up his kids inside the high school gym. They got out and started making people sick. As a precaution, they closed all the schools. He began to take more shallow breaths. It was me, Katie, and her mother. We were gonna enjoy playing hooky together. My wife made us a big breakfast. Scrambled eggs, bacon, sausage, the works. I still can't figure it out. My wife wasn't sick, wasn't bitten or bruised or anything. It started with the muscle spasms. Next thing I knew, I had to pull her off Katie so she didn't hurt her. We had been driving on and off the last few days to get as far away as possible. Katie left her tablet behind and just kept whining about it. She wanted it back. I lost my temper and didn't see the tree you pulled in the road. She stopped what she was doing and put her hand on his shoulder.
You can't blame yourself for losing your temper once in a while. She's a kid. She don't understand the situation.
Jordan pulled his shoulder back. No, it wasn't her being a brat. I know what she wanted. It was what was on her tablet. Those were some of the last photos the 3 of us took together. I keep telling her, we'll see mommy later. Deep down she knows. Kids are smarter than we give them credit. There was no holding back anymore. He couldn't pretend everything would be okay anymore. He had to get this burden off his chest. It had finally struck him down. It was he who grabbed Madonna this time. God forgive me, he proclaimed through muddled tears. I had to beat my own wife to death in front of my little girl. Madonna managed to pry him away.
That's enough. Quit acting like a little girl. You had to do some stuff you ain't proud of. We all have. You best keep yourself together for the sake of your little girl. Those things out there, they smell the fear, weakness. It's survival of the fittest. If you can't hack it in this world, I won't hesitate to cut your throat if it means saving my own skin.
As abrasive as she was right. Whatever he was feeling, he had to remember to be strong for his daughter. Maybe Madonna was just what Katie needed. Another woman in her life. A strong woman who would help her grow up in this dangerous new world. They let Katie sleep for about half an hour before they woke her up for dinner. Everyone ate in silence. Jordan played with the corn on his plate. He thought about what Madonna had said to him. Although he felt better having an adult to talk to, he didn't really have much of an appetite. The infection was slowly getting worse, and he could feel a fever breaking out. However, he still forced himself to eat some for appearance sake. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, nothing tasted as good as that bite to the bandit's neck. Soon he would have to leave Katie too, walk into a small corner in the middle of nowhere somewhere, and either let the infection run its course, or put a bullet through his own head. How would he break the news, though? There was no easy way to say it. How would Madonna react to him saying he was infected? He was already guilty of lying by omission. What if it freaked her out? For all she knew, Katie could be sick too. She could kick the both of them out. Jordan couldn't let that happen. He needed Katie to be safe, and this was the safest they had been all week. While he was pretending to enjoy his food, he decided what he would do. He would wait until the night, give his daughter a hug and kiss while she was asleep, leave a note for Madonna, and go outside as far away as he possibly could and accept his fate. It was a decision he needed to make for everyone. It was the only way. When the time read 2:30 a.m. on his watch, Jordan decided it was time to go. He could feel his body ached and he could feel his temperature still rising. The end was near. Katie was asleep and comfortable and, most importantly, safe. He stroked her hair and gave her one last kiss. This leaving her was the toughest decision he had to make, but it was for her own good. He couldn't risk making her sick too. Making as little noise as he could, he ransacked drawers and cabinets until he could find a pen and paper. He scribbled out the most apologetic note that he could, how he was sorry for keeping such a big secret, how there was no one left for Katie and she was going to need someone to look after her, how he felt Madonna was best suited to look after Katie, conspiracy theories aside. He slung his rifle around his back and prepared to creep out the back door. He would get as far as he could, and when he didn't have the energy to move anymore, he would lay down, enjoy one final sunrise, and slip into insanity. He could barely twist the knob on the door before he heard floorboards creeping behind him.
Where the hell do you think you're going?
He thought quickly. I heard a noise. Something is out there.
Good on you, staying sharp like that. But it was just the generator. Must be out of gas. I'll go fire things back up. We'll need it if we're going to have water running in the morning.
He noticed she was carrying 2 big cans of gasoline. How much fuel does that thing take?
It's not just the generator by the shed that's the problem. I gotta get down the hill and get to the well. The water pump needs gas too,
Madonna explained. This turned out to be a blessing in disguise. She hadn't noticed the note he left for her yet. He could go outside, help her get the water running again, and then slip away into the night. Killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Well, let me go outside with you, said Jordan. You handle the generator by your shed, and I'll go downhill and take care of the water pump. It'll be faster. It's dangerous to be out there at night. She made no complaints as she loaded up a snub-nosed revolver and concealed it under her bathrobe.
If you insist, but you better start hauling ass as soon as you get the generator started. We're going to be making an awful lot of noise. If there's any infected out there, they're going to be on us like flies on shit.
And you're sure Katie is safe in here?
I had the door reinforced. As long as it's closed, ain't nobody getting through. And I don't think those things are smart enough to try the knobs.
This was the moment of truth. Jordan opened the door and Madonna sprang out. He followed immediately after. When they were outside, he took notice of the chicken coop she had set up. The chickens were all just sitting out there. They were alive, though. It was the first signs of animal life Jordan had even noticed since he ventured into the woods. Hey, what's up with your chickens?
Tell you the truth, I ain't sure. Those things never snatched 'em up. I'm waiting for those suckers to lay eggs. They're slacking on me. You know what I can get for some fresh eggs these days? People are killing for those.
She handed him a can of gas. All right, he confirmed. I'll head downhill. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
10-4.
He knew he didn't plan on coming back. His energy was draining faster and faster, but he wouldn't let Katie go without water. At the bottom of the hill, the rustling leaves of maple trees made him feel chillier than he already was. There was something about that gentle noise that just gave off autumn vibes. With all his might, he heaved the can of gas up and tried to get the water pump as full as possible. Madonna had only gave him about a 20-second lesson before he took off down the hill. He was losing his senses, but hopefully his memory was still working okay. Whatever he did, it worked. It took a minute, but the water pump roared to life, and he could hear the generator doing the same just uphill. It was another sound he didn't like. It was the bang, bang, bang of a snub-nosed revolver. Uphill, a group of 6 infected were running towards Madonna. These guys weren't fresh. Whoever they were when they were healthy had been totally consumed and forgotten. Their skin was dehydrated and wrinkly. Their eyes were extra dilated and bloodshot. They let out a monstrous roar and sprinted faster towards her. Her gun roared 4 more times. That was 4 down, and 2 remained. Amidst the chaos, her gun was knocked away. An infected came inches away from biting her in the arm when suddenly the sound of a rifle filled the air. Jordan had gotten there just in time. He fired another shot and took out the last remaining infected. Is everything done? He asked. She stuttered to answer.
Yeah.
All right, come on. Let's get you back inside. He bent down to lift her up. While hoisting her up, he noticed she had blood leaking off of her. Please, let it be her own blood. Anybody else's blood but her own. He took her beanie off and gently stroked back her hair. His worst fears were confirmed. A big gaping bite mark. And not just anywhere. Right on the neck. The worst spot. She was going to turn, and fast. Madonna, you... He was at a loss for words. She reached back and felt the wound on her neck.
Well, shit. Looks like my luck run out with the water. I can't stick around, but you're welcome to hold up in my place. Look out for Katie. She's a sweet kid. And Jordan, don't beat yourself up. You're one hell of a dad. Better than my old man ever weighs.
She raised her gun and put it to her mouth. 1 bullet left. It was all she needed.
Hey, big brother. You watching up there with your drones and your spy balloons? You got what you wanted. This is the best form of population control I've ever seen.
The hammer on her gun inched forward. Madonna, hold on. Just wait a minute. The gun roared to life, and that was that. This was the second time now that someone else's blood and brains were all over his face. With all the noise, more infected would be coming soon. He was an open target if he didn't get moving. But what was the point? There was only one thing he wanted to do, and he failed at it. He cried out in agony, smashing his fist into a lifeless corpse. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. You were supposed to take care of her. Son of a bitch! As he was pounding on her corpse, he felt something cold and stiff in her shirt pocket. It was the keys to the shed. For what purpose, though? The generator was only on the outside. What did she have in there? He took the keys and slowly opened the shed doors. He couldn't believe his eyes. Inside rested a brand new pickup truck with all the options you could ever ask for. Keys rested in the ignition. This couldn't be real. Jordan had to be having a fever dream brought on by the infection. Surely, if she had a car, it was broken. Wrong again. The car started right up. What was she thinking? Why have a car and not use it? Why not mention it to him? They could have gotten the hell away from there. Then it came to him. The GPS. Her stupid conspiracy theories. If the infection didn't drive him insane first, Madonna's paranoia would. His sweaty, feverish face turned blood red and he smashed his hands against the steering wheel. "Are you fucking kidding me?" he cried out to the open air. "You and your goddamn conspiracy theories. You made me waste all night." One final smack hit the dashboard. He didn't know how it happened, but the radio jolted to life. A faint voice cried out over the static.
This is Doctor. If anyone can hear me, the answer to the infection is here. I have plenty of food, plenty of water, and plenty of room. You can find me at...
Jordan punched in the address on the truck's GPS. Screw government interference. None of that mattered. He'd have to drive all night, but he felt he had just enough life in him to make it before he couldn't go on anymore. It was either this, or leave Katie alone in the woods. The next morning, Katie awoke in the passenger seat of the truck. Jordan had made it through the night. The lack of sleep and the infection really hit him hard. Looking at himself in the rearview mirror, he didn't even recognize his own face anymore. The person he was almost gone, making way for the monster he was becoming.
Daddy? Where are we? Where's Madonna?
She asked. Old habits die hard. She'd stay behind. One of her chickens laid a bunch of eggs. She's meeting us later, he said. Finally, they arrived at their destination. This was weird. It was a nice suburban neighborhood, but it looked odd in the context of the pandemic. Everything was eerily neat and clean. Where had all the cars gone? It was like everyone just packed up and drove away. Better to leave than tarnish their postcard perfect town. It was like this place existed inside of a bubble. They found the address they were looking for and went up and knocked on the door. An older gentleman in a white lab coat answered the door.
What do you want?
I heard you on the radio. Jordan coughed into his hand. My daughter and I have been through hell. I'm sick and she's starving. We just need a place to lie low for a little while.
Oh, yes, of course,
said the doctor.
Come on in.
The house was like something you would see in one of those fancy magazines, where the average person could never do more than just browse. Everything looked brand new. The appliances seemed to be fresh out of the box. The furniture had never been sat on.
You take a seat on the couch.
The doctor looked at Katie.
Little girl, I just fixed some breakfast. You are welcome to help yourself while I speak too.
I'm her dad. My name is Jordan, Jordan answered. Just go dig in, Katie. It's been ages since you had a proper breakfast. I'll only be a minute. The doctor made sure that Katie was out of the living room before he spoke sternly to Jordan.
Okay. I don't want to upset the girl. She reminds me of my own daughter. Now, tell me the truth. Where were you bitten?
Jordan held up his bandaged hand, now full of blood and pus.
Okay. How long has it been?
6 days. A week, maybe? Jordan could only whisper. This was it. He could feel it. The doctor jotted down some notes on a piece of paper.
Very impressive. I haven't seen anyone go through more than 4 days yet. Could be the size of the bite, and it could be you have a very strong immune system.
Listen, Jordan interrupted. I'm done for. Everyone I ever met is either dead or insane. This place seems okay. You have food. I know it is a lot to ask, but Katie is all I have left in this world. The last piece of me. Just please, keep her safe. The doctor set his notepad down on the table and chuckled.
Oh, Mr. What did you say your last name was again?
I never did.
In any case,
he continued.
Mr. Jordan, let's call you. What if I were to tell you I was so close to getting to the root of all of this?
Jordan was confused. You mean like a vaccine or something?
Even better,
the doctor asserted.
How about a cure?
Really? How's that even possible?
Well,
he explained.
We've had it all wrong this entire time. We have been focusing too much on transmission via biting. that we forgot all about the source of it in the first place.
Have you figured out where it came from?
Precisely. It's the poultry. Haven't you noticed chickens aren't laying eggs like they used to? Even eggs properly fertilized, there is something wrong with them. They either won't hatch at all, or the ones that do. Well, I'll spare you the gruesome details, but it isn't pretty.
It all made sense now. His wife's last breakfast, the chickens on Madonna's farm, the egg shortage. If Jordan had the strength, he would leap off the couch. Okay, so now you know where it comes from. What's next?
I'll just need a couple more subjects to run some blood tests on. My daughter was sick too. Her name was Samantha. I came so close, and her idiot prom date messed up everything. Destroyed vitals of medicine and got the whole town infected. I had my lips wrapped around the barrel of a gun. I wanted to give up, but I thought to myself, no, keep going for the sake of your daughter. When you love your children, you'll do anything for them. Don't you agree?
Jordan had lost his voice. It was too hard to answer.
Now, with you here, we can run some tests on you and your daughter. I must say I'm very interested to see how the body behaves in the first few minutes to hours after contaminated product is ingested. And now, I don't have to endanger myself. I have found a new Patient Zero.
Jordan closed his eyes and was losing consciousness. He failed to find his words, any word at all to grab Kitty's attention. If he could just take in one last deep breath, he can shout out, "Stop!" But it was too late. Each thump of his heart, each shallow breath, any humanity left in him drained away. He was not human anymore, only vaguely in appearance. If he had hung on one more second longer, he might have been able to warn his daughter. The last thing he could hear was Katie proudly exclaiming,
Daddy, this is so good. These are just like the eggs Mommy used to make.
Well, that was quite the ending. Special thanks to the creator Joey, our narrators, Musey's Modern Dreadfuls, Madam Raven, and Lance's Creepy Reading. Of course, if you liked tonight's story, please leave a like, comment, and share it with your friends. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'll be seeing you